It was a dream come true for her, but as we began talking about the wedding, something shifted in her. Mia started offering very strong opinions on everything, whether it was the venue, the guest list, or even what I should wear. It felt like she wanted to control every detail, making it more about her vision than ours. William was caught in the middle, trying to keep both his mom and me happy, which only added to the stress. As the wedding planning continued, tensions between us grew. We started arguing about things that normally wouldn't be an issue, all because we were trying to balance our desires with Mia's expectations. I quickly realized that if we didn't address this, it could have long-term effects on our relationship. So, I suggested to William that we have a serious conversation to set our priorities straight and figure out how to handle Mia's involvement. We agreed that the wedding should reflect what we wanted, not just what Mia envisioned. While we valued her input, it was important to establish boundaries. Together, we decided to sit down with her and gently explain that while her involvement was appreciated, the final decisions had to come from us. It was crucial that we stayed true to ourselves as a couple on our special day. At first, I was thrilled. Mia embraced me with open arms, eager to get to know me better and help with the wedding. She stayed with us for a weekend to assist with the preparations and bond. I saw it as a great opportunity to grow closer, but things quickly changed. It started subtly. During breakfast on Saturday, while William was outside drinking coffee, Mia smiled and said, "You're not too concerned about carbs, are you?" I laughed it off, but her comment stung a little. Later, as we looked through wedding dress catalogs, she pointed to a dress, saying it was beautiful but only suited for a certain body type, hinting that it wasn't for me. I brushed it off, but I felt a growing sense of discomfort. The real blow came when we went shopping for wedding decorations. She casually mentioned how a friend's daughter had lost weight for her wedding and asked if I'd considered doing the same. I muttered something about being happy with my body, but it was clear what she was suggesting. The next day, she snooped through my kitchen cupboards and made a comment about all the snacks I had, advising me to eat healthier before the big day. Her focus on my weight became more pointed with each interaction. The comments were always wrapped in a friendly tone, but they felt more like subtle jabs. Interestingly, she only made these remarks when William wasn't around. Whenever he was present, she was all smiles and charm, but the moment he stepped out, the critiques resumed. It was like dealing with two different versions of Mia, one who accepted me and another who judged me constantly. I didn't want to cause any problems with William, especially since we were newly engaged and still in the honeymoon phase of our relationship. I convinced myself I could handle Mia's remarks. After all, I had always been confident in my body and worked hard to feel good about myself, but her comments were starting to get under my skin, and it was becoming harder to ignore them. Mia's visits increased as the wedding drew closer, and it became impossible to escape her presence. She always seemed to have an opinion about something, making it hard to focus on the plans without her hovering. It was exhausting trying to maintain my patience while balancing her advice with my own vision for the wedding. One weekend, she called to say she'd be coming over again. Dread filled me. I needed time to myself to focus on the wedding without her constant input. Hoping to avoid her, I mentioned I was going dress shopping that weekend, thinking that would give me some space. But instead, she insisted on coming with me. Caught off guard, I couldn't refuse without appearing rude, so I reluctantly agreed. As we visited bridal shops, Mia took on a motherly role, picking out dresses I didn't care for and critiquing the ones I liked. When I tried on a gown that I felt beautiful in, she remarked that it was nice but too tight around the waist, suggesting something more flattering. Her words deflated me, and by the end of the day, I hadn't picked a dress. I felt defeated. Once Mia left, I finally felt some relief from her constant critique, but she soon followed up with texts asking when we'd go dress shopping again. I avoided answering her, determined to shop alone next time. Unfortunately, William accidentally mentioned my plans, and Mia quickly called to ask when she could join me again. Faced with the thought of another stressful day with her, I quickly came up with an excuse, telling Mia that the bridal shop had a strict policy of allowing only 3 guests, and that my mother and maid of honor were already accompanying me. She immediately questioned the strange rule, catching me off guard. Flustered, I stuck to the story, even though I could feel how flimsy it sounded. I ended the call as quickly as I could, guilt settling in for lying to William's mom, but I knew I needed to prioritize my own peace of mind. Despite the guilt, I reminded myself that this day was supposed to be joyful and exciting. I resolved to focus on the positive aspects of the experience, finding the perfect dress and sharing the day with people who truly supported me. My mom and maid of honor arrived to pick me up, their energy lifting my spirits. Together, we headed to the bridal shop, and I allowed myself to fully embrace the excitement of the day. I pushed aside the lingering guilt and focused on enjoying the moment. It wasn't long before I found the perfect dress, one that felt like it was made just for me. Afterward, Mia's communication dwindled to nothing, no calls, texts, or visits, although she still spoke with William. This brought some relief, as it eased any potential tension between them. Feeling a burst of excitement, I sent her a photo of me in the dress, hoping to share my joy. Her response was a simple thumbs-up emoji. Unsure of how to interpret it, I chose not to dwell on her reaction. As the wedding approached, I became consumed with last-minute preparations, leaving little time to think about Mia. My days were packed with tasks, finalizing the guest list, confirming vendors, and perfecting the decor. When the big day finally arrived, it felt magical. Walking down the aisle toward William, I saw the love in his eyes, reassuring me that all the stress had been worth it. We exchanged vows and rings, and in that moment, we were officially married. The reception was like a dream. The venue looked stunning, the weather was perfect, and the food was delicious. Our first dance, polished through weeks of lessons, felt like a scene from a fairy tale. Everything was going smoothly until I went to the bar for a drink and saw Mia standing there. She offered me a Shirley Temple with a bright smile, perhaps attempting to ease the tension between us. I accepted, grateful for the gesture, and took a sip. Minutes later, I began to feel oddly drowsy. At first, I chalked it up to exhaustion from the excitement of the day, but then I suddenly collapsed. Losing consciousness, chaos erupted as William rushed to my side, shouting for an ambulance. I could barely make out the voices around me as my vision blurred. When the EMTs arrived, they revived me and began asking what I had consumed. I mentioned everything, including the Shirley Temple Mia had given me. The EMT's concern grew as they asked about any medications I was taking. My maid of honor, Jasmine, quickly stepped in and mentioned my anxiety medication, which could dangerously interact with alcohol. Suddenly, Mia stepped forward, visibly distressed. She admitted that the drink she had given me contained alcohol, thinking it would help me relax without realizing the potential harm. I was shocked. Why would she spike my drink without telling me? The situation grew more intense when the EMTs confirmed that the combination of my medication and alcohol had caused my collapse. I was fortunate the reaction hadn't been worse, though I was relieved to be okay. The trust one had placed in Mia was shattered. William, who had been silently fuming, finally exploded. He confronted his mother, his voice trembling with anger as he demanded she leave the reception immediately. Mia looked stunned, trying to explain that it had been a misunderstanding, but William refused to listen. I had never seen him so upset, and it hurt to watch him have to confront his mother in the midst of what should have been a joyous day. The atmosphere of the reception shifted drastically. Guests began to sense the tension, and the celebratory mood evaporated. People quietly started leaving, and soon the reception came to an early end. What I had hoped would be the happiest day of my life was now overshadowed by Mia's reckless decision. Later that night, William and I returned to our hotel room, emotionally drained. The weight of the day's events was heavy, and a deep sadness crept in. What should have been a perfect day had been marred by something entirely avoidable. In the days that followed, Mia tried to reach out to both of us, but neither William nor I were ready to speak to her. William, torn between his love for his mother and his sense of betrayal, struggled to process his emotions. Returning home after the wedding, I made an effort to focus on starting this new chapter with William, but the memories of that day lingered. There was a constant undercurrent of what ifs. What if Mia hadn't meddled with the drink? What if the reception hadn't ended the way it did? Fortunately, our honeymoon provided some much-needed relief. For those 5 weeks, we were able to escape the drama and simply enjoy being together. It was a blissful reprieve, and for a while, life felt wonderfully normal again. But reality hit hard when we returned home. As we pulled into the driveway, there she was, Mia, standing at our doorstep. My heart sank, and a familiar knot of anxiety formed in my stomach. I had known this confrontation was inevitable, but I hadn't expected it to happen so soon. Worse still, Mia didn't start with an apology. Instead, she immediately launched into defending her actions, insisting that it had all been a harmless prank. She downplayed the severity of what had happened, making it clear she didn't grasp the gravity of her mistake. Her refusal to acknowledge the seriousness of her actions was exasperating. She brushed off the whole ordeal like it was no big deal, and William had finally had enough. He confronted her with a firmness I hadn't seen before, making it clear that she had crossed a line. He told her that the only way forward was for her to take full responsibility for what she had done and offer a genuine apology. Until then, he said, their relationship would be limited to holiday gatherings, like distant relatives who only see each other a few times a year. Mia was shocked by his stance and burst into tears, but William remained resolute. I could see how much it hurt him to set these boundaries with his own mother, but he stood by me, making sure I felt safe and respected. Things escalated unexpectedly a few weeks later when Mia showed up outside my office, surprised and anxious about causing a scene at work. I agreed to meet her at a small cafe nearby. She looked visibly distressed, and as soon as we sat down, she broke down in tears, drawing the attention of nearby customers. Mia expressed disbelief at William's firm stance, saying he hadn't answered her calls or texts. She begged me to intervene, hoping I could help restore their relationship. Yet, even in her emotional state, she hadn't apologized for her actions at the wedding. It was as if she refused to accept that she had done anything wrong. I calmly told her that instead of showing up unannounced or creating a scene, she should take some time to reflect on how her actions had affected both me and William. I reminded her that she had ruined what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, and it wasn't fair to expect me to simply move past that without an apology. Mia attempted to defend herself, saying she hadn't meant any harm and was sorry for how I had taken things, but it was clear she still didn't grasp the full impact of her behavior. As her tears continued, and more eyes in the cafe turned toward us, I felt increasingly uncomfortable. I told her I would talk to William but made no promises about whether I could help mend their relationship. As I left the cafe, I was torn. Part of me wanted to forgive her, but the apology felt forced, like something she only said because she had to. My mother advised me to forgive and move forward, but I wasn't sure I could just let it go so easily. What do you all think I should do? Should I forgive her and try to fix things, or am I right to be hesitant?